Hey, what is going on, everybody? My name is Indy Pride, back with Milk and Cookies Total War, bringing you some Ancient Empires gameplay on Total War Attila. Remember that this mod is going to be released on September 30th, so pretty soon all of you guys will be able to get your hands on it. But I am playing as the Kingdom of Kush. We've got 12,000 men on the battlefield. Alex the Rambler is my partner, also playing as the Kingdom of Kush. We are facing off against Ptolemaic Egypt, commanded by Oakley High Def from THFE Productions and H for Havoc. So, a battle of Total War YouTubers on the field today, and the Kingdom of Kush is a really interesting faction. They play very uniquely, really unlike any other faction in Ancient Empires, and the reason for that is because they have a huge focus on bows. They have a long-range bow contingent, and most of their infantry carry bows, and they have poison attacks. So let's go over the poison real quick, and I'll explain to you why it's so good. So right here we got the Kushite bowmen. They have very long range, good ammunition, obviously poor armor, no missile block chance, but they do have poison arrows, which deal base damage of 1, which is what all arrows do in this mod. This is a 1 HP mod, so if you get hit by an arrow and it goes through the armor and you don't get a shield block chance or whatever, you are going to die to that arrow. But the poison arrow gives -2 morale, -10% melee offense, -10% melee defense, and -20% speed. So that is very powerful. It's not as good as the poison attacks in Total War Attila from the Slavs DLC or anything like that. It doesn't work the same way. You're not going to see guys drop from damage over time like the ridiculous poison arrows in the Slav DLC, but those can do a lot of damage, and more than anything, just reduce the fatigue of your opponent so that as the battle wears on, they become less and less effective. And fatigue in Ancient Empires is super important, and the reason for that is because your morale starts going down like crazy, your combat effectiveness and your killing power go down like crazy when you are taking a bunch of fatigue penalties. So the longer a battle draws on, the more fatigue becomes a factor, the less likely it is for elite units to start cutting through stuff, and it gets very interesting. So you have to manage your fatigue very well in Ancient Empires. Now, Oakley High Def and H for Havoc are playing as Ptolemaic Egypt. We'll go over their army setup, and then we'll go over mine. You can see we're just doing a little bit of skirmishing right now. Look at the amount of bow fire coming in from my army. There's so many arrows on the field right now, just kind of blocking out the sun. But going over to Ptolemaic Egypt, we've got Jewish infantry meat shields up front. We've got mercenary Rhodian slingers. Some, I'm not going to get the pronunciation on some of this right, Klaruki pikemen. And in the back, we've got some Macedonian cavalry. Lots of those guys on the field. Royal sword bearers as Oakley's elite force. Decent armor value, good shield block chance with the Hoplon. They're going to be pretty scary in melee. More Jewish infantry on the flanks. So his Jewish infantry are coming up right now, trying to just meat shield and chase off some of my archers. And you can see the amount of... there's some poison arrow going off now. That's going to get that fatigue penalty going on these Jewish infantry. I'm going to pull my cav away so that most of those javelins do miss. But you can see my line is consisting of a bunch of Kushite bowmen up front. Oh man, that poison arrow effect is really cool looking. You can kind of see the green tinge on it, destroying those slingers in the back. But Kushite noble cavalry as my cavalry contingent, very strong cavalry force. And as my main line, Kushite nobles, which double as sword infantry and bow infantry. And with those poison attacks, look at how fast those Jewish infantry routed. I'm going to run them down and make sure they don't come back to the battlefield. Try and shatter them if I can. But yeah, the thing that makes the Kingdom of Kush so good is they have a decent cavalry contingent. Their cavalry can be very solid in melee. They have Kushite nobles, which I'll show back here. Very cool looking unit. They're actually all the way in the back. But they have so many bows, and you just kind of outrange your opponent, force your opponent to come to you, take them down with those poison attacks, and then you can take some really good engagements and crush them from there. So I'm just chasing off some of this cavalry. You can see some of the Macedonian cavalry are breaking. Over on this side, H for Havoc and Rambler are engaging. Rambler has a very similar build to me. More Kushite nobles than I have, I believe. But the Machamoy archers up front are already routing, and I think they just shattered. Again, a pikeman in the middle. And the Egyptians are going to be using those pike lines to try to tie down our Kushite nobles will have to flank these. You charge into them from the front, you're going to have a very, very bad day. More Gemma pikemen, more of the Machimoy archers, and in the back, Royal Spear Bearers, also equipped like a hoplite unit. Oh, they actually have a Thoreo spear, it looks like, or Thoreo shield. And then some Katakoi cavalry. I think that's just mid-tier cav. And he has some Ptolemaic Chariots, which have been buffed since the last time I played this mod. When me and Oakley played the Seleucids vs Ptolemaic Egypt game, these were not very good. They are a lot better now. They are scary in melee. They can run through infantry and actually do a lot of damage to cav too. As you can imagine, size chariots would wreck the legs of a horse, and so those are going to be pretty devastating in melee. So it's pretty important to not stack up the debuffs from poison attacks, because they don't stack. You don't want to have all your guys on poison attacks, but every unit that you're shooting at, you should have at least one poison attack going into them, because along with regular arrow fire, getting hit by poison attacks is going to hurt them pretty bad. You can see all of these Jewish slingers, I'm reducing their fatigue and shredding them with regular arrows, and of course they're very low armor and have a very small missile block chance with that tiny little shield. So they're not going to have a good time in these skirmish fights, and I really can't think of any faction in this game that can deal with the Kushites, or the Kingdom of Kush rather, in a skirmish fight. That's a very tough matchup. Just so many bows. Like, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 10 bows on the field. That's a lot of skirmish firepower, and that will force Oakley to move to me. You can see he's trying to get aggressive on this flank. Again, my cavalry and Macedonian cavalry trying to get around the flank, maybe get into my swordsman. I'm going to shadow him with my Kushite noble cavalry, make sure that he can't get into me. In the middle here, good charge into my Kushite bowmen. Very nice play from Oakley, and I'm going to chase them off, but he's going to pull away, so well played from him there. And we're just kind of trying to feel each other out a bit right now. I have done some damage to his cavalry. I think I shattered one of his cavalry units, and I've definitely been winning the skirmish fight. But more stuff is happening over on this side. The pikemen are trying to get into melee. It can still be pretty wonky to use pikes in Ancient Empires. They're better than they were in, well, certainly in the base game, but they're still a little bit weird. It's hard to control them where they're going, and they will kind of bug out and face the wrong way occasionally, like what's happening with these guys right now. But Ramblers moving up to engage. Again, my pikemen facing the wrong way there. Not really a surprise. And now the Kushite nobles, who are those bow units, but they're actually very good in melee too. Don't have a great armor value, only 7, but they can close in and wreck stuff in melee combat, and they're very fast. And they have obviously bonuses in desert combat. Ramblers did a good job here of getting his Kushite nobles into the... Actually, those are the Kushite Royal Guard, into the back of the Agema pikemen. So he's completely surrounding these guys and going to try to rout them. So good micro from Rambler there. And then over on this side, things are going to get pretty heated. So I have routed a Macedonian cavalry, chasing that down, and now I'm going to be able to get some of my cavalry into the back lines and start harassing his skirmishers. You can see right here, my Kushite noble cavalry have charged into his slingers and are engaging some of his Agema cavalry as well. In the center, Kushite swordsmen quickly wrapping up these Jewish infantry, which of course are pretty low tier stuff, not well equipped at all, and we're just pushing through and slaughtering as many as we possibly can. And then over here, looks like the sword bearers have made it into combat with my Kushite Royal Guard. Very cool looking units. Great looking mod. And we're going to see them go at it. In the back, you can see my cavalry trying to get around the flank here. Let's see where I can send them and harass my opponent. Now, rear charges in this game, well, just like in regular Attila, are extremely devastating, but it's more about the morale impact. The killing speed in this game, just the speed of combat in general, speed of combat resolution, definitely slower than Attila, much slower. But if you can get hammer and anvils off, it will cause massive morale penalties that will pretty much instantly shatter troops occasionally. So you can see that right here, charge into the Jewish infantry and the mercenary Cretan archers. They're going to shatter, and now I'm going to look to charge into the back of these royal sword bears. If I can get a hammer and anvil into them, that will be very, very nice. Lots of wavering and shattering on Oakley's line. My cavalry has made a big impact on the battle thus far. Now they're getting into some of these, what are these units? The Galatian military settlers. I'm going to try to take them off the field as well. No Galatian Royal Guard on the field for Oakley in this battle. None for Ptolemaic Egypt. They can be very powerful in this mod, but I've found that cavalry is usually, just like in Attila, what wins you the battle, but it's a very different style of cavalry play. You will go for those hammer and anvils, but you're not going to really be frontally charging enemy swords too often. Combat resolution is so much slower. It's really about getting those morale penalties, getting those hammer and anvils off. So I've managed to do that here. I've surrounded his general. His Agema cavalry is not having a good time. His Kleroki pikemen engaging my Kushite nobles from the front. So really, this is not a good engagement for me because the low armor value of my Kushite nobles. It's more like a mid-tier armor value, but it's not an amazing armor value. You don't want to be engaging pikes from the front if you can avoid it. But I am flanking with some of my Kushite swordsmen, and they might be able to get into the back of these pikes if I can get them under control quickly. You can see that now. And if I can get a rear charge off here, yeah, kind of more into the flank. Not going to get a perfect rear charge off, but they should be able to wrap up into the back of this pikeman unit and probably rout them. So I am definitely taking a commanding lead over on this side of the battlefield. You can see much more yellow on the field than red, and Oakley is shattering. He's only got Royal Sword Bearers, a pikeman unit over there, and this pike unit that is going to rout very soon to that flanking charge from my Kushite swordsmen. And now with this charge coming in from my Kushite noble cavalry, this is going to be a bad day for the Ptolemaic Egyptians. Nice charge coming in that will shatter the pike unit, and I've pretty much won over on this side. So let's focus on what Rambler is doing. I've sent some of my Kushite Royal Guard to help him out over on this side, and these pikemen are kind of bugging out, or I guess maybe don't have an attack order, so they're just kind of standing there getting smacked in the rear by these pretty deadly looking axes. Not a fun way to go, getting your neck chopped by one of those things. And we're quickly destroying that pike unit right there. But in the middle, it's a bit more even, actually. The Pict Machamoy are kind of surrounded, but seem to be doing pretty well against his Kushite nobles. Over here, more pike units not facing the right way. I don't know if this is down to micromanagement from Havoc or just that they're kind of buggy, to be honest. But Ptolemaic Chariots are racking up the kills. 426 kills. Another rear charge into these nobles. They're going to shatter. So these Chariots have been used very well from Havoc. And they're probably going to make an even bigger impact on the battle as this game progresses. And over here on this flank, H for Havoc has done a very nice job. Going to quickly wrap up the remains of this noble cavalry unit. And once that happens, he'll be able to send these guys back into the main engagement. Look at how big this battlefield is right now. So many dead on the field so far. Started out with about 12,500 or so, and now we're down to only 5,000 people left on the field. So many shattered, many dead. Another nice charge coming in from the Ptolemaic Egyptians into the back of the Noble Guard. See if you can shatter them here. They do have good morale, but generally speaking, even the elite tier troops in this mod, if they get charged in the rear, are going to think about wavering. But I guess Katakoi are pretty low tier units. They're either mid tier or low tier, I'm not sure. But after charging in, they're going to actually start wavering. They're not doing so hot against this Kushite Royal Guard, even though they are sandwiched between these two units. Maybe they'll stabilize. In the back, some Ptolemaic Chariots are routing, but I think they'll come back. Now I'm sending my troops over to help reinforce Rambler. We've taken a little bit of a lead here because I was able to clean up Oakley aside from this one very annoying pikeman unit. And this pike unit is going to fight for a long time. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to combat resolution. It can be a very long time to deal with some of these units if you don't have hammer and anvils from cavalry coming in. So cavalry is still a huge player in this mod. With that charge coming in and just completely surrounding them. They've been surrounded for a while. They've only lost about 10 men. Actually 8 men so far. So we'll be fighting for a long time, even though I do have them completely surrounded. Over here, wavering some of these pikemen. My general has actually made it into the side chariots, Ptolemaic Chariots, and I'm going to quickly realize that I'm losing a ton of guys in my general unit, and I'm going to pull out. I didn't actually know that chariots were so effective versus cavalry. Logically, it makes sense. Look at that thing. This right here is terrifying. That would destroy a horse's legs, just completely cut them off. But when it comes to Rome 2, side chariots, generally speaking, were not very good versus cavalry on Emperor Edition. There was a time earlier in Rome 2's life cycle where they would absolutely wreck Cav, I believe, but as the game progressed and the patches rolled in, size chariots were nerfed a bit, they become much less effective against heavy cavalry. In this mod though, they do seem to function very well versus Cav. I charged in and lost about 15-20 guys on my bodyguard unit, so that was a little bit scary. Pulled out Ptolemaic Chariots, 480 kills and 210. Like I said, both of them have been used very well by H for Havoc. Good charge coming in from the Katakoy Cavalry, but they were a little bit braced and facing the right way, so they're going to get the shield block chance on that charge and should be able to repel this cavalry attack. With all of my units streaming in now, though, this is going to be very difficult for Havoc to pull out. He does have that trump card with these side chariots. Look at them. See how many kills they get. They started at 220, and in about 2 seconds, they got 30 kills off the charge. They're still racking them up pretty fast. You can't pull them through, but they still seem to manage to just rip through units. Like, they don't function the same way as they do in Rome 2. In Rome 2, you'll just give them movement orders and pull them through stuff. In this mod, even though they're not really moving, they were still racking up kills. And I guess once that charge bonus wears off, that stops. But now that they're tied down, it should be able to kill them. But man, look at that. Kushite nobles. Maybe about to shatter, and actually his side chariot's finally going to go down. And once they shatter, I'll be able to run them down and slaughter them. So those side chariots are now dead in the back lines. Still have some ammo on my bow units. And look at it. They've barely lost anything. They've lost 2 guys in the last like 2 minutes. They were at 184 last time I looked. So I think that has a lot to do with the stamina on my men. They are tired, but surrounded, I would expect them to do a little bit more killing, just a little bit faster. But I'm not sure what the deal with that is. Like I said, Kushite nobles are good infantry force, even though they are bow unit first and foremost. They're good in melee as well. So it's a little bit weird. Over on this side, we've got some Agema pikemen completely surrounded by my noble guard and Kushite nobles. And we're going to try to cut them into little itty-bitty pieces. Look at how epic this battle looks. Great looking game, and I'm actually not having too many frame rate issues either, which is nice, considering there are 12,000 men on the battlefield to start. Getting pretty good frames right now. Royal Cavalry searching for an opponent to slaughter. Pick match, I'm only going to get run down. They're shattered, they will not be coming back. And at this point, the Kingdom of Kush is in the ascendancy, even though the balance bar says they still have a chance. Rambler was kind of freaking out when we were on chat. He was like, dude, they can still win, they can still win. It's like, nah, I don't think they can at this point. A balance bar is a little bit misleading at this point. And looking at what they have on the field and the fact that we have cavalry superiority, I mean, actually, cavalry superiority at this point means 1 cav unit. It's just my general at this point. But the fact that I can get hammer and animals in the late game is going to be all we need. The fact that we're able to surround these Agema pikemen, still shoot in with those poison debuffs, and wreck the fatigue of these Agemas, it's going to be a really big deal. I wanted to let my general just kind of sit and recuperate for a little bit. You can see he's winded. Quickly going to move back into active though, and that will help his combat stats. Make sure that when he gets into melee, he's not getting debuffs from being fatigued. So I just wanted to rest him for a little bit. There are some slingers coming back in the background. Let's watch some Kushite swordsmen slaughter these picked match more for a second here. Get some nice cinematic shots. Looks so awesome. I really love using this faction. Kingdom of Kush is probably the most fun I've had on Ancient Empire so far. Vercingetorix versus Kimbri match that Oakley just uploaded. Definitely go check that out as well. That was another game. I might upload a commentary for that just because I think it's interesting to have someone's different perspective on the battle. I like it when... I know that some people don't like it when me and Oakley upload the same videos, but again, I've talked about it before. It's if we're both gonna take the time to do a commentary and play a game, we should both be able to get views from it. And that was a really good battle. So I don't know for sure if I'll show it, but that was a really good one. So I might. But either way, if I don't upload it, definitely go check it out on Oakley's channel. I'm going to shatter this mercenary Rhodian Slinger here. with a nice charge. Kushite Royal Cavalry up to 370 kills. And that's not even that impressive on this mod, to be honest. With the amount of men that are in a unit, the amount of men you can slaughter when you get a hammer and anvil off, that's solid. I've used my general and my cavalry well this game. The fact that I have a cavalry unit in the late game attests to that. But these picked Machamoi are going to get slaughtered as they run from the field, just cut down by my bow units and by my noble infantry. And blood is going to spatter the sand here. We're going to take the battlefield very, very soon. 30 seconds left in the replay. Royal Spear Bearers completely surrounded. Picked Machamoi completely surrounded. And army losses penalty about to kick in. And the Kingdom of Kush will take the battlefield. Alex the Rambler and myself are going to take the field against Oakley High Def and H for Havoc. It's a very good game to all players. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, remember this mod is coming out on September 30th, so you'll be able to check it out and play it for yourself. Looking at kills, almost 400 on my general. Pretty solid. I'm not going to be able to look at the names of the units until this loading screen is done, but let's look at kills. So I deployed 3,000 Rambler, very similar amount of troops, and I lost 1,100. Rambler lost 2,000. Havoc deployed close to, we actually all pretty much deployed around 3,000 men, but Havoc lost 1,800 and Oakley lost 2,400. So with my cavalry superiority on that side of the battlefield against Oakley, I was able to overwhelm him. You can see I had more cav units. That's a big deal in this mod. And you can see his Macedonian cavalry did well. So did his Agema, well, his Agema, not so much. But I had more. So I had 3 Kushite Royal Cavalry, 2 Kushite Noble Cavalry, and was able to slaughter his cavalry force, get into the rear, destroy his skirmishers, and you can see the kills, 400 on 2 of my Kushite nobles, or royals. That's very confusing. I think that there's not much difference between those names. Looking at my Kushite Royal Guard, all about around 100, pretty solid. You can see my Kushite nobles, pretty hard to see, but 177 kills, 215, 168. The ability to shoot down your opponent from long range, win the skirmish fight, and then run into melee with these guys makes them a very versatile unit. Did really well for me, and did really well for Rambler as well. And for Havoc, his Scythe Chariots, 480 kills, 380 kills, pretty solid. And Oakley's best performers were, I guess, the Macedonian Cavalry. Hope you guys enjoyed that battle, and let me know if you want to see some more Ancient Empires. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.